That uncomfortable bench in the park isn't a design flaw. It was intentionally designed to drive you away. This is hostile architecture, a project of social exclusion disguised as urban planning. It was born from a collective fear. Starting in the 80s and 90s, as the broken windows theory became popular, the idea emerged that visual disorder in a city would lead to crime. The solution, then, was to design that disorder out of public space. The goal is to make the environment hostile and unwelcoming for any unintended or unauthorized use, especially for people experiencing homelessness. Think of metal studs under overpasses, grates on building alcoves, or sprinklers that turn on automatically under awnings. It's control through discomfort. The Camden bench in London is the perfect example of this cruel logic. Its sloped surface prevents anyone from lying down, the material is anti-graffiti, there are no crevices to hide drugs, its angular shape prevents skateboards from grinding on it. It was designed to resist everything, including the very concept of public rest. The result is a city that punishes everyone. The elderly have nowhere to rest, parents can't sit comfortably with their children, and most cruelly, vulnerable people are forced to seek even more dangerous shelters. Human coexistence is traded for a controlled emptiness, an artificial peace that only exists because real life has been expelled. But architectural control goes beyond physical discomfort. The most effective control is the one we apply to ourselves. This is the idea of the panopticon, conceived by the philosopher Jeremy Bentham and analyzed by Michel Foucault. It's a prison structure where a central tower can see all the prisoners, but they never know if they are actually being watched. The mere possibility of being watched at all times ensures discipline. The prisoner becomes his own guard. Take this idea to the modern open-plan office and the glass facade buildings that are everywhere. This isn't just about aesthetics, natural light, or collaboration. It's a structure of total surveillance. It creates a culture where everyone watches each other, not just the boss. You don't know who's seeing your screen, who's judging your coffee break. The consequence is increased anxiety and a loss of privacy. It's the performance effect, where everyone feels the need to look busy, killing creativity and genuine rest. You become your own overseer in a prison without walls. Now, let's go to the place designed to hijack your wallet, retail. The architecture of consumption is a science of manipulation. The main concept is the Gruen effect, named after Victor Gruen, the architect of the first shopping mall. Interestingly, Gruen's original vision was to create a community space, but the market turned his vision into a money-making machine, creating an environment so immersive and confusing that the consumer forgets their original plan and gives in to impulse buying.
IKEA's labyrinthine layout is the masterpiece of this. You're forced down a one-way path, exposed to every product in the store, even if you only went in to buy a single glass. The exit is your reward. This disorientation is reinforced by intentional tricks, the lack of windows and clocks to erase your sense of time, floors that change texture to make you walk slower in high-profit areas, and even specific scents diffused through the air to evoke comfort and hunger. It's the opposite of a neighborhood shopping street, which promotes conscious choice, not manipulation. This control spreads to the entire city scale. 20th century urbanism, obsessed with the car, used highways and overpasses not just for traffic, but as weapons of class segregation. Freeways were often planned to cut through and isolate minority and low-income neighborhoods, creating veritable scars on the city. In New York, urban planner Robert Moses became famous for designing overpasses with bridges that were too low on Long Island. It said the goal was to prevent buses, which would carry the poorer and black population, from reaching public beaches. The giant expressways that cut through the heart of cities like Sao Paulo or Los Angeles function as walls. They not only make a pedestrian's life a nightmare, but they separate worlds, etching inequality into the concrete. The consequence is a forced dependency on the car, hours of life lost in traffic, and the death of communities that were once walkable and connected. The solution being discussed today is the 15-minute city, an idea that seeks to give the streets back to the people and break this logic of isolation. And even in the spaces that seem freest, control is present. Many plazas and parks that seem public today are in fact private, and they come with an invisible rule book. These are privately owned public spaces, or POPs. To get permission to build taller buildings, developers offer a plaza to the city, but in practice, they maintain control over who can use the space and how. Zuccotti Park in New York, the stage for the Occupy Wall Street movement, exposed this lie. Because it was a private space, the police could, at the owner's request, evict the protesters from a place that had all the appearances of a public square. In these places, disorderly activities like protests, music, or simply lying on the grass are often prohibited by private security. The space becomes a corporate backdrop to be walked through, not a place for community life to happen. It's the death of spontaneity. This conditioning starts early. Modern architecture trained us for a life of conformity, designing our homes and schools like machines for efficiency, not as spaces for people to flourish. Le Corbusier's machine for living in idea and 19th century school design treated people like cogs in a machine. The focus was on standardization, order, and control.
The enormous standardized housing projects, like the Pruitt-Igoe project in the US, were sold as a dream and became a nightmare of isolation and crime, being demolished in less than 20 years. Likewise, the traditional school, with its long corridors and identical classrooms, is optimized for teacher surveillance and factory model teaching. The result is the creation of generations accustomed to impersonal environments and a relationship of command and obedience. In contrast, schools in Finland, with flexible, open spaces that encourage autonomy, show a path focused on collaboration, not conformity. Historically, the very forms of architecture are a tool of power. They have always used scale and material to demonstrate power, dwarfing the individual before the greatness of the state or religion. The goal of monumental architecture is to inspire a mixture of awe and fear. You are meant to feel small and insignificant. Hitler's architect, Albert Speer, planned gigantic buildings for Berlin, designed to make the individual feel like an ant before the power of the regime. The monumental axis of Brasilia is a case study. The massive scale, the immense empty spaces, and the distance between the palaces of power were designed for the speed of the car and to create an image of distant and untouchable power. It was not made for the citizen on foot. This generates a feeling of alienation. How can a citizen feel part of democracy when the architecture that represents it seems made for giants? It's proof that being grand is not the same as being important to the people. But if architecture can be used to control, citizens can find cracks in it to take back control. This is the essence of tactical urbanism. These are quick, cheap, and often community-led interventions to test improvements in public space. It's an act of design rebellion. Think of gorilla benches installed by residents at forgotten bus stops. Think of bike lanes painted by the community overnight. Or of parking day, when activists turn parking spaces into tiny parks for a day, questioning who the street really belongs to. These small actions restore a sense of belonging and a sense of agency. They prove that the city is not a finished work, but a living process. The architecture of the future, the architecture of more humane cities, should not be about control, but about trust, about designing spaces that invite life, the unexpected, and freedom, instead of dictating how we must act at every step. Which of these concepts best describes your city? I want to read your opinion in the comments. It's your suggestions that define the next videos on the channel.
And if you want to keep decoding the world around you, subscribe so you don't miss the next video.